Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session created for a previous smoker. Now, she hadn't smoked in about a year. She was vaping and hadn't vaped for just over a week. But she had a fear, and the fear was that it would come back and that she would have a desire or she would relapse. Now, what was interesting is that she originally stopped the vaping as a result of listening to one of my hypnosis podcasts, and that was enough for her to quit the vaping. But she wanted to really create a permanent new identity around being a non-smoker that had no desire ever to smoke, and the desire was the important thing. So in this hypnosis session, what you're going to be listening to is an element of regression to a point where originally she started smoking for two key reasons. One was to feel part of a group, a family, a tribe, if you like, and that's not uncommon. Generally, what can happen in teenage years is that smoking becomes a bond, a form of social cohesiveness, because people within the group are doing something that perhaps their parents wouldn't approve on, that makes them different from other children their own age. And there's an element of solidarity and feeling rebellious that can happen from that particular behavior. And for some children, there is that real desire to belong somewhere, to connect, and smoking can be a catalyst for that. So there's one element there. The second is this idea of, is it actually doing the thing that it's designed to do? And there's a great, kind of way of thinking of smoking as almost like a trick, like a bait and switch. So in a lot of industries, let's say certain forms of marketing, a bait and switch would be to promise one thing, and by the time people have signed up for it, they find out it's something else entirely. This could be used for recruitment. This can be used for, sales, lots of different kind of things. It's also used to exploit humans in the form of trafficking. So someone might be promised an amazing job, and then they find out that it's nothing like that, and then they're coerced into doing something against their will. So if something doesn't live up to the promise, that can feel like it was deceit at some level. So you're going to hear these principles being infused in this hypnosis session to create the idea that smoking has never lived up to its promise, and that the ultimate rebellious behavior is by non-conforming even within the people that you would normally conform with. And this applies to things like subcultures. Generally, a subculture creates a bond if they're different from everyone else. So it creates this idea that she's got the confidence to be nonconformist, and we use timeline and regression ways of thinking about this. So it's not something new, that it's happened in the past, it's in the present, and will influence the future, particularly a future where she would be around some of these old friends that she might have the temptation to kind of do something bad. So the key way of thinking about smoking isn't that it's good or bad, but as to whether it's useful or not useful. And if smoking is useful, what is it useful for? And is it uniquely useful for doing that? So some people think, well, smoking is useful for social confidence, or they think it's useful to deal with stress. And the key question would be, is it uniquely useful for that thing, or are there other things that are even better than that? And this client was using things like mindfulness and breath work to also change their state, which negated this idea that smoking is necessary. The moment that you feel like you don't need to smoke, then it becomes a choice. And why would you choose to do something that could have undesirable consequences that you don't want? If you're listening to this, it might be that you want to quit something. Could be smoking, could be vaping, could be a drug or some kind of habit that you have. In which case, there will be a link in the show notes that you can schedule a free consultation call with me. But you might find that there is something in this session that is very useful for you to create a change. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow feelings of any worry, stress, or tension to leave your body in your outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, start to notice any clues of tension or stress in your body. Maybe an expression on your forehead, tightness in the jaw, muscles tense in the neck or the shoulders. And as you breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation, just give permission to yourself to let go of that tension, enabling it to leave your body in your outward breath. Meaning you're able to go deeper and deeper relaxed. As you breathe in and breathe out, allow your eyelids to feel heavier and heavier, breathing to slow. And I want you to get a sense of what it means to be controlled. There are some people that are controlled based on coercion. There are some people controlled based on financial controls. They can't spend their own money. Other people are controlled based on reputation or perception. But the way in which we control ourselves is by believing things that aren't true. And one of the most powerful beliefs is to believe who you are at your identity. And maybe there was a time in your life that you believed that you were the rebel, the nonconformist. But sometimes these beliefs are ways of thinking that can trap us into behaviors that can be destructive and disempowering. Imagine someone as a child believing that they're stupid. Think of all the limitations that would place on their entire future through a single belief that may not even be true. I want you to scan your body for where you feel a sense of connection with yourself. For many people, it's the chest, the heart, the solar plexus. But I wonder where it is for you. And I want you to imagine a glowing light there in that location of connection. As you breathe in that resourceful feeling, make that light of connection even bigger, brighter, more intense, as you feel a deep connection with yourself. And I want you to tap into an identity that has always been true, but for periods in life, you thought something else was true. And you know what that is. What's really true for you as a person is that you are connected with yourself. That's your source of wisdom, grace, ease. And when you're deeply connected with yourself, isn't it true that you feel in control? Control of the choices that you make and the decisions in your life. And if you feel that connection is the line that's always been there from birth to present and will always be there, that you are connected with you, just let me know by nodding your head. And there was a time in your life that you added 1 + 1 and arrived at 3. There was a time in your life when smoking helped you feel this connection that's always been there. Because you can remember moments as a child when you felt connected. And you can feel many times in your life you've had this wonderful feeling of connection without smoking, without vaping. But there was a period when smoking gave you a feeling of connection with others and a connection with yourself. Until you thought that it was necessary for you. But I'm wondering what the most rebellious thing you can do, the most non-conformist thing that you can do, is to be the rebel and still value those connections. I want you to tap into this part of you that is a non-smoker. That the more either yourself or anyone else tries to convince you that you are, the more rebellious you become. That the idea of vaping brings out the rebel within you, brings out that desire to do the exact opposite. And when I'm communicating to that part, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And I want you to imagine to go back in time, all the way back in time to perhaps when you were just 15 or 16 years old, a time when you hadn't smoked yet. And if you can recall a time like that, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine climbing into that version of you. You're now just 15 or 16 years old. We're going to create a suggestion that the most rebellious and non-conformist thing that you can do is to be fully yourself, irrespective of the pressure around you. I want you to create this idea that the real version of you is someone in control of their life through the choices they make. Feel that glowing energy there in that location of connection, and it's always there. And you can make it stronger just by slowing down your breathing, being mindful, finding one thing to be grateful for or appreciative of. And you can find that instant connection with yourself. A gift from you to you, with no need for anything external. And I want you to imagine seeing friends or people you knew at that time that were smokers. But you knew that's not you. And that rebellious part means the more that someone tries to influence you to smoke, the more rebellious you become. I want you to imagine people at that time, they're smoking. They seem to be having fun. They encourage you to. And it creates the opposite reaction. No desire. The non-conformist thing to do when everyone around you is smoking is to not smoke. And I want you to get a sense that you can maintain the connections with yourself and with others. You can hang around with those people. There just isn't the desire to smoke in that situation. And if you feel that, you're able to take pride in the fact that you're the one in the group that is different, thinks your own mind, makes your own choices. You can have the connections but not do what other people are doing. Just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to get a sense that you are a non-smoker. And the only way you can be a smoker is if you choose to be a smoker. Imagine that you didn't choose that as a child. And I want you to imagine going through your future, that whenever you were offered, you just said no. When you saw people around you smoking, it created a desire to not smoke. You notice the smells. You notice the consequences. And I want your pride to come from not smoking. Imagine going through your teenage years, taking pride in you being you, making your own choices, feeling that you are able to grow by not being dependent on any crutch. And I want you to recall the times that the people around you were irritable because they couldn't smoke. Had situations that were undesirable as a result of their smoking. And I want you to get a sense that you are grateful from not having that same dependency. The most powerful traps are the people that don't realize they're in a trap. I want you to get a sense that by escaping the trap in the future and thinking about your past, you're able to create an idea that not smoking is the rebellious thing to do. That being a non-conformist is having the ability to smoke and choosing not to. Imagine going through your teenage years, your 20s, all the way through your life with this idea that you're not willing to be dependent on a substance. Feel it rippling through your body, recalling times that people tried to talk you into things and it just created the opposite reaction, a polarity response. The harder they tried, the more convinced you were that you didn't want it. Until you're all the way up to the present. And I want you to imagine you're seeing yourself by your side. There are two versions of you now, and you get to step into the one that's right for you. Yourself as a connected, non-conforming, non-smoker. You live life on your terms. You can be around smokers and not mind. There's just no desire to smoke. Or you can be a shameful smoker. You could choose to be that person that will smoke or vape when no one else is around, thinking that that's the source of connection when the true connection is always there. You can see a version of you that is self-conscious, weaker in some way, less able to grow, less empowered. Or you could see the non-conforming non-smoker, the version of you that lives life on your terms, based on what helps you to grow, to become wiser, to become more in touch, to be in better control. And when you're ready to step into the identity that most aligns with your core values, let me know by nodding your head. And then step into that version of you. And then teleport yourself into the future as this version of you. Imagine you're with friends, but something's different. You can see other people smoking and have no desire to smoke. You can still have the same conversations, same connections, and when people ask you, are you not smoking? There's no defensiveness. You just feel like you've evolved, that you've moved forward. If they ask you about smoking or vaping, hear the words come out of your mouth. That's the old me. I don't feel like that anymore. And if you feel like that's true, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Notice how relaxed you can be around other people, whether they smoke or not. And even if you drink, there's no desire to smoke. Just get a sense of being aligned, in flow. And notice that every time you reinforce this identity of being a non-conforming non-smoker, it makes you feel good, giving you a little boost of dopamine, rewarding you for re-choosing this identity. I want you to get a sense that sometimes things happen in life that are just blips, just one-offs. There might be a time in your life where you vomited, but you don't have the identity of being a vomiter. There may have been a time in your life where you tripped over and fall. You don't consider yourself a faller or a tripper. So it would be ridiculous, even if you did have just one cigarette, to think of yourself as a smoker. You are a non-smoker. You've been a non-smoker your whole life. You were just a non-smoker that smoked for some of it. But at your core, you're always a non-smoker. There is a difference between an addiction and a habit. there are people addicted to certain substances that have stolen from people to fund their addiction, caused immense pain to the people around them to maintain their addiction, lied, cheated, stealed. And then there's habits, things that people do because it made them feel good in that moment. And I want you to get a sense that that habit is in your past. And you're in no hurry to choose to have that habit back. Your future is one of control. A future where you're in control of your life and your choices, or that a habit is in control of your future and your choices. The question to ask yourself: do you want a future where you're controlled, or a future where you're in control? And when you're ready to fully embrace an identity and a future that resonates with you at a spiritual level, at an identity level, at a values level, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine it's the end of the trip. You spent time with friends. Congratulate yourself on how you've handled who you are, that you leave feeling in control, feeling that this cemented a new identity, that if you can handle this situation, you can handle any situation. And that gives you permission to be the version of you that in the past has been on the distance and now becomes the present. There's no longer a person that you're destined to be or want to be. There is the person that you are. You are that person already. Your choices just reinforce it. Get a sense that you're returning to the present, listening to my voice. Feeling a ripple of change go all the way through the past and into your future, connected with an identity of growth. That sometimes growth is in the discomfort that comes from not being dependent on ineffective and unhealthy coping strategies. Your past is one where you can let go of the shame, let go of any self-consciousness, any embarrassment. And what it means is you will awake connected to the opposite. The opposite of shame is pride. You can awaken full of pride at this new identity. The opposite of being self-conscious is being full of self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence. Tap into these feelings and link them to this new identity, knowing that you have so many ways of creating a wonderful connection with yourself and other people. So why would you go back to the old, ineffective ways? Starting to count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.